Okay, another take. And this is a review of Electric Cream's Season 1, Episode 1, titled The Hoodmaker, a sci fi series that I believe is still available on Netflix. And this is from Philip K. Dick, the guy who created Star Trek. And I learned my lesson from a previous sci fi review of Earth Final Conflict when somebody claimed that I did not mention Gene Roddenberry, the creator of that series, even though I'm pretty sure I did mention Gene Roddenberry. So from now on, if I do a sci fi series review, I'm going to mention the creator of the series like 50 billion times. So there's no mistaking that I made mention of the creative genius who devised the series. So you can appreciate that. So I'm going to mention Philip K. Dick probably like 5 to 10 more times in this episode. So yes, I've learned my lesson. Philip K. Dick. Philip K. Dick. I'm gonna really remember that. But anyway, on to the review. Welcome to the critical weight theory, where sometimes I dissect the twisted futures and uneasy presents. And this time we're looking at Philip K. Dick's Electric Dreams. You got that? Philip K. Dick. Wow. So I'm Wade, and today we're starting right at the beginning in a very hostile manner with The Hoodmaker, the series premiere that was released in the UK on September 17th, 2017. So it's not really an old show, at least not exactly. Well, it's like 8 years old, but that's not exactly an ancient time, 8 years ago. And it's a warning shot of an episode. You've got neon gloom and creeping telepathy. I've heard it pronounced both ways, and sometimes I mispronounce it myself. So let's get into this bumbling, fumbling, stupid ass review. And so, what is the Hoodmaker? The director was Julian Gerald. I guess he's known for Great Expectations from 1999, where he grounded his characters with some restraint and realism, at least from what I've read. When I looked into that, I have not seen that movie or that series or whatever the hell it is, but I've been told that it's good. The screenplay, I believe, is by Matthew Graham, and it's based on the 1955 short story by, you guessed it, Philip K. Dick. Woo! Mentioning him yet again. Got a name drop to appease the nerds out there, because they gotta hear that name. Anyway, the plot. Imagine a world where privacy is dead, not because of smartphones, but because of people, mind readers. And the Hoodmaker, we're dropped into a retro futuristic society where the people are under the thumb of an authoritarian regime. And wow, why does that sound kind of relevant to today's era? I don't know. Why might the authoritarian regime element resonates so much with contemporary American politics? Boy, I have no idea. It's not some doofus who smears Cheeto dust all over his fucking face. It's not because of that or anything. But anyway, this government uses teeps, a sort of strange name for telepaths, to read minds in the name of public order. They're marked by facial tattoos, feared and resented. It's Big Brother, but they're psychic. So, how about that? And there's an Agent Ross, played by Richard Madden, a classic government enforcer type. He's paired with Honor, a Teep played with quiet strength by Holiday Granger. And their mission is to track down the source of mysterious hoods that block telepathic surveillance. Not not, gangsters, literal hoods like what you wear on a raincoat. And these hoods are more than accessories, they're a rebellious thing to put on and a chance for citizens to reclaim their mental freedom from the surveillance of the Teeps. So Ross and Honor chase the Hoodmaker, and the line between loyalty and freedom ultimately is blurred. Ross starts to see the cracks in the system that he upholds. Honor, meanwhile, is torn between her role as a tool of the state and her identity as someone that society both uses and rejects. So the themes potentially hit hard in this episode. You've got the issues of surveillance and state control. This is like Orwell 2.0. The Teeps are a biological extension of the surveillance state. No need for cameras when someone's reading your mind, after all. It's a terrifyingly intimate invasion and very relevant to issues of privacy and resistance. So the hoods are genius. They're simple, almost analog tech, but they represent a revolutionary idea, a way for people to become unreadable again. In a world where thoughts aren't safe, the ability to hide them is power. And there's a weird discrimination angle here, too. Teeps are visibly marked and socially isolated. They're necessary but never totally accepted, so they're both a weapon and a pariah. So it's a dark metaphor for how society exploits the marginalized while keeping them at arm's length and making use of their labor. So you've also got the issues of identity and trust. It's a bit of a slow burn relationship between Ross and Honor, and it sort of asks a big question. Can you trust someone who hears your every thought? Or maybe the better question, can you love someone in a world where nothing can be private? So, another interesting thing that I had to explore when I looked into this episode is what's different between the page and the screen. So, admittedly, because I don't read as much as I should, especially for someone who is a literature major, I did not read the story. So, I had to look up these details. And Philip K. Dick's original story is more plot driven, from what I understand. It's it's just different. And this has, the TV version adds a romantic thread between Ross and Honor that's apparently not actually in the book. And visually the series leans hard into a noir style. So it's a bit like Blade Runner, I suppose. Think trench coats, shadowy corridors, and looming brutalist buildings. The past and future collide to create a world that's both old and unsettlingly new. It's cyberpunk without the gloss, gritty, grounded, and believable for being sort of a far fetched story. Although the technological era that we're in has people who are interested in literally using technology to read minds or at least predict people's thoughts. So this isn't quite as far fetched sci fi as one might initially think. In the age of advanced tech and everything, it seems like stories like this are more relevant than ever. So the performances here are pretty solid. I think critics mostly liked what they saw. Holiday Granger got praise for her restrained yet intense enough performance. And I think the world building in this episode is pretty spot on. It builds tension quietly, and the story. I think it will matter to a lot of viewers what happens. I think they'll stay committed to the episode once they've started. And yes, the pacing is a bit slow, but that's part of the effect. It's sort of suffocating by design. You're not supposed to feel comfortable. You're supposed to feel watched, or however you want to phrase that. So the Hoodmaker isn't just a dystopian pilot, it's sort of a blueprint for how to kick off a sci fi anthology with weight and relevance. In a time where surveillance is digital, constant, and mostly invisible, this story makes the danger more visible and more personal. The biggest question it leaves us with, in a world where your mind isn't totally your own, what's left of you, you know? If you're being constantly watched and people are trying to get into your thoughts and see what makes you tick, what what exactly is there to say about it that actually lets you stay independent in your judgments and everything? It's sort of that great question of how much of you is really even you, how much of your personality and even your life story is actually yours. Are you you know there's a song by the band Tumor Circus that has Jello Biafra in it, where he uses the line, or he refers to somebody as being a spineless human pinball. Or no, no, wait, no, that's actually the song Straight A's by Dead Kennedys, where he refers to somebody as a spineless human pinball shot around by your demands and with your meaning society. So I originally thought, because Tumor Circus, one of Jello's bands, actually does have a song that about human beings being shot around like pinballs in a machine. So he's used that reference more than once, and that's kind of what this theme reminds me of in this episode. What what exactly is there to you anyway? So I think I've said enough. This is probably not going to be that great of a review. I'm sure I'm going to have critics who are going to be like, "How come we didn't mention this?" or "How come you're all over the place?" or whatever. But it's like a raw review, or even though I took notes. But I'm kind of riffing in addition to reading my notes like a script. So if you've nevertheless enjoyed the sloppy breakdown here, you can subscribe or like, you can share, tell people about the episode, and uh, whatever you want to do. I don't know. If you want to critique me, come after me. I should mention Philip K. Dick's name yet again, just to pacify the nerds who, need the name regularly referenced in order to fully appreciate the review or whatever. So, Philip K. Dick, Philip K. Dick, Philip K. I should call them the Philip K. Dickheads out there. But anyway, yeah, that's my take on the episode. It was good. I'm not giving it a bad review. So anyway, it's a Dickian nightmare, you might say. Anyway, until next time, keep your thoughts sharp and keep Philip K. Dick always in your mind.